San Diego Chargers. It's a beautiful city. Are they so busy enjoying? Are they so busy enjoying the natural beauty of the city? Forget football. We're living wonderful here.
Did they get rid of Norv Turner?
They finally Norv is back.
Norv's back. Then
And my gosh, he's like a big hemorrhoid right on my right thigh.
It'll be the same old with San Diego until they get rid of Norv Turner. He cannot inspire
Thank
players.
you.
I'll tell you what. When I read the comments in the newspaper or online that Norv Turner makes after a football game, especially after a loss, I just try and put myself in the position of one of the players in that locker room and try and think, this is our head coach. This is his message to the team. This is how he is attempting to inspire us to become a unified team and play that way and play like hell on Sundays or whatever.
Cohesion.
And it's just, he's boring. He's boring. I mean, I don't think he couldn't motivate a Boy Scout to walk around the block. How could he lead the Chargers? It's football is a mental effort. It's a mental activity.
I've never heard the man raise his voice. I've never heard any other thing but monotone. I couldn't agree more. That's a big problem with it.
You got
the man's monotone.
It's attitude. It's the mental intensity that you bring to the game or lack thereof that determines the outcome. Because every team has an offense and a defense and special teams, and they can beat you if they come in more focused and more mentally prepared and ready to execute than the other team. So, if you look at the great successful teams and what do they have in common? They've had a head coach who could relate to his players and get them to think together and act together and play as one at a high level of intensity, especially in an important game.
That sounds a lot like a team environment.
Which is opposite of what Norv apparently is doing, which is like boring his team to shreds. They had the team that a couple seasons ago, remember they were like 13-3 or something. They won their last 11 games of the season and they had a bye, and then home playoff game against the New York Jets. They were favored by 8.5 or 9 points in the playoffs, which is huge. And they got smoked in the second half by the Jets with
Sanchez of all people.
Yeah, I know.
With Danny Thomas?
I think it was LT. He wasn't the only one.
Oh.
And to lose that game, it was like they were helpless. And all the other home teams
Philip Rivers threw
day.
so many interceptions last year. If we look back,
we're on the subject of
that
Philip Rivers.
that I'm sure he's going to get a Christmas card from all the other 31 teams in the NFL.
Especially the defensive
And there's
coordinators.
going to be some coupons and some money in there because they made it. Philip Rivers made it so easy on every team that they play. Oh, the offensive, exactly. The offense and the defense too.
Yeah.
They still have Antonio Gates, who's arguably the best tight end in the NFL. He's been a bright star and he's been a stellar for the San Diego Chargers for at least 3 seasons now, but they cannot seem to find cohesion in that team, and so that stems back and really the responsibility falls exactly on Norv Turner, which is a name I don't even like to say, let alone I don't like him. I don't know what I'm going to call him from now on. I guess I'll call him Captain Motivator, Demotivator.
Call him the future ex-coach of the Chargers because that's what he is.
He should have been gone years ago. Do you hear me, Norv?
I know.
Years ago.
And the owners, Alex Spanos, apparently cannot see the writing on the wall, cannot recognize his head coach's lack of ability to motivate his team and his team's lack of ability to win games. They had a game.
He spent too much time down at the beach.
They had a game a couple years ago. They were on a reasonably good run. They went up to Detroit to play the Lions, and the Lions just handled them from start to finish. It was a demolition. The Chargers lost by about 30 points, and that game was the end of their hopes of making the playoffs that year. They were already kind of like on slim hopes in the first place.
Wasn't it a high-scoring game too, as I recall? It
was high scoring.
35 or something?
No, it was very high scoring for the Lions. It was very low scoring for the Chargers, which is a bad thing for them and their fans. As long as the Chargers are playing Kansas City and Oakland, they look like a reasonable NFL team. But when they play the teams that can actually play in the NFL, playoff teams,
it's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
I couldn't agree more. Beautiful uniforms. When they're playing at home in San Diego, everything looks great on TV. It's sunny, it's bright, the colors are great, they're looking good out there, and everything looks just like the place you want to be. But if you ask them to play football, well, you're asking too much, because they're not into that. So I don't know what's going to happen to San Diego. I don't think there was any significant trades, as I can recall, in the off-season for them. And as far as their drafts are concerned, I don't know what's going to happen there either. But I do know that Phillip Rivers is a man who forgot he's an NFL quarterback. And as horrible as that sounds, and as much as I think he's proven himself in the NFL, Phillip's in big trouble. Because he's got a team that he's surrounded himself with, and he's made the mistake, which you may or may not have known this, but in the offseason, actually there was too much speculation about Norv Turner being replaced because obviously the NFL is an unforgiving league, and for many of the cities, like San Diego, they're no different. So when all the talk and all the scuttlebutt was around the media about Norv Turner being replaced, Phillip Rivers made the mistake of vouching for his coach and trying to get him to remain in San Diego. Phillip, baby, does he have some dirt on you or what? Was it some hotel room in Oakland? I mean, what happened? Tell us what's going on here.
Good Lord. Who knows? Maybe it's like the known problem is greater than the unknown problem. He didn't want to face the unknown problem, right?
Exactly.
Well, and he knew that by standing up for his head coach and trying to get the head coach to keep his job, he would keep his job no matter how many interceptions that he throws. I think Phillip Rivers often makes a mistake that Brett Favre used to make, which is when the game gets on the line, it's fourth quarter, they got to come up with some points, and he tries to force the ball in to a receiver that's basically covered, and it just doesn't work, especially when he's double covered.
Very Favre-ish, I have to say.
Especially when the pass doesn't really go where you want it to, and that leads to a lot of interceptions. Rivers is a hell of a competitor, but you got to realize when the man's not open and just throw the ball away and lift the play.
Well, they both think they come through 6 generations of seamstresses, and I'm telling you, they can't thread the needle that good. Okay, it wasn't your great-great-grandmother who quilted the first American flag. Okay, they're not going to thread the needle that tight.
No.
Why?
It works once in a while, but more often than not, it
Right.
just leads to
Needle in a haystack. I mean, come on.
interceptions, basically.
As far as Denver's concerned, I mean, it's a division I really probably the division I least like to talk about personally. I'm the least interested in those teams, but Denver's going to run away with it, and I guess we're over to the AFC.
NFC, well, we'll get there in a minute.
Okay.
We got one more division, but so Denver's going to win the division, have a home field advantage for at least one playoff game. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl this year, which they probably should have made last year if they had been able to play defense in their playoff game.
The Donkeys in the Super Bowl?
Slightly.
Say it ain't so.
Slightly. The Broncos. As to whether who's going to finish second, third, or fourth, I don't really know. I could safely say Kansas City's going to bring up the rear. So it's between San Diego
The rest of them are trash teams.
and Oakland for a second and third. Neither one of them is going to make the playoffs. The only team from the AFC West that will be in the playoffs will be the Broncos, and they'll be in the Super Bowl.
I absolutely equivocally agree.
Good. Hallelujah.
Yes.